just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar, brought to you by the beautiful Bloke Beer. Get down your local, grab a case. We're now in every single Celebrations, Bottle-O, IGA Plus Liquor, Porter's Liquor in New South Wales and ACT. Plus, we're in hundreds more stores across the eastern seaboard, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, ACT. So head to blokeinabar.com. You put in your postcode. It will show you the nearest stockist. Also, got plenty of Bloke shirts on bloke.shop. But I'm super excited to announce we've got the great Hudson Young on the show. How you going, brother?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me.
Nah, appreciate it. Now, what's it been like? It's been a few weeks since you've had off now. What's, I guess, the feeling after the season you've had?
Yeah, it was a little bit weird to start because I didn't expect us to lose. I thought we were actually going to kick on, and
yep.
Obviously going down to Para, it was a bit of a shock, but it's been good to get home and see the family as well.
It was so good, the run you had into the finals, because I think everyone kind of didn't expect that late push that you did.
Yeah.
Because you started the year, so poorly, and then it was like the second half of the year. If you would looked at your record, like Ricky Stuart said, you might have been in the bloody top four.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, the way that we started the season was real disappointing, and probably comes back to the second half. We had our halfback that we signed, and I feel like he built with Jacko and Xavier massively, and helped our run into the back half.
Yeah. It's like, it just shows you how important just a good, solid seven with experience is.
Yeah, especially because we did our whole pre-season with Jamal there, so and I think he got injured in the trial game, and then credit to Brad Snyder, put his hand up and come in, but it's hard for a young rookie to come in and take over and control the side with superstars like Jack White and Papa in there, so it's hard for a young kid to do that, and you've seen what Jamal did when he come back.
Yeah. And so Schneider, does he play 6 in New South Wales Cup or 7?
I think he might play 6, and Frawley might play 7, but
okay,
it's same, I think.
Yeah, I think the game is, it's good to have an organising one, but look at the Storm, they got Jerome Hughes and Munster, and I think back in the day you would say both of them would be 6s, but Hughes obviously makes it work.
Yeah, 100%.
What about you've got the recent announcement that you'd made the Australian extended squad? I guess, how did that come about, and were you surprised?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised. I got an email the club got an email from whoever to say that me and Jacko had been selected in that. So, yeah, like you said, I was actually a bit surprised. And
speaking of emails, did you have a funny email growing up like we all did?
Yeah.
What was your email?
It was something to do. I was a Billy Slater fan, so it was like Huddy/Billy Slater or something at live.com.
How good. Hey, mate, that's better than mine. Mine was Sir Kempelot at hotmail.com. What was yours, Matty?
Mine was Matty Buxton _Rabbitohs at hotmail.com.
And then when you eventually got to read it out to someone.
Yeah. Oh, shit. I think that's when you change your email is when you become an adult.
Yeah, 100%.
Because it's like when you're 16 and that, you think you're the coolest bloke in the world. That's funny. So you were a massive Slater fan going up?
Yeah, I've still got a thing of him on my wall at home at Nen's house, so everything was Billy Slater when I was a kid.
Were you an outside back growing up, or just you just love
I've come
Slater?
through in the halves, and when I was younger than that, I was a fullback. So
fullback,
yeah,
holy heckers, biggest fullback ever.
Yeah.
So Billy the Kid, do you think he's the GOAT fullback?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, mate, he
One
was
of the GOAT players, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Like when he came back after he was told basically he wasn't going to play again, and then won a GF. You go on. He won the GF, didn't he? Yeah, 2017.
17,
yeah. What was it feeling like playing against Slater? Did you get a chance?
No, I never got to play against him.
Out.
Got to play against Smith and stuff like that, but
yep.
Yeah, it would have been a dream come true if I played against him.
Oh, because you debuted 2019, okay. He retired 18?
18, yeah.
18?
Or it might have been 17 after GF.
I might have been.
Did they play GF 18? Yeah, they lost the Roosters.
Yeah, that's right. It was his last game because he was going to get suspended for his last game. But he got off.
Okay. So, the 18. So just the year before. Damn. Do you have any, did you get to meet him at all growing up?
Nah, there was a time at Newcastle. I think we played maybe a game before the Knights in a school footy game, and they come out to warm up, and I remember just standing there just staring at him for ages. And I was like, fuck am I doing?
Oh man, when you're younger, when you see like the NRL players and that, you're like they're almost like a world away.
Yeah.
Like how would I ever be that?
Yeah.
I remember a trial with it was like Dragons vs Bulldogs. I don't know why it was on the Gold Coast, but I remember like walking past and seeing Gaznier, and I think Sonny Bill was in the Bulldog squad. I could be wrong, but seeing Gaznier in that, and I was like, they're so big.
Yeah, massive, eh?
Oh man. Okay, so I guess take us back to a young fella. Was it always rugby league? Born in Maitland, New South Wales?
Yeah, born in Maitland and grew up in Greta, Hunter Valley and Newcastle area, and that everything's just rugby league. There's no union, AFL, all through the schools and that. Everything's just footy. So I was a massive footy head and still am now.
Yeah. And so did you, like from a young age, were you playing footy like 5, 6?
Yeah, I think I was 4 when I started playing under 6s. So
wow, loved it.
Yeah.
How good. Were you always like a standout, or you had to work your way up?
No, I feel like I was just probably a normal player. And I think when I got suspended, when I was 16 or 15 or something, is probably where I realised that talent can only take you so far, and it's the old cliche. But I feel like that's when the hard work started, and I've just built from there.
Okay, so going to school and that, what was like you growing up for you? Did you have a pretty normal upbringing or anything?
Yeah, it was pretty normal, I think.
Yeah. I know. It's when you grow up, everything's kind of normal, because it's just like your life.
Different.
Yeah.
But no, everything was sweet at home, and just a normal kid, just loved his footy, and like I said, everything was just footy.
And was the Knights your team, or was it the Storm because of Slater?
No, everything was Melbourne.
Oh, really?
Flags, everything, yeah.
Holy.
I never really got in supporting the Knights. I obviously always wanted to play for them just because I was from there, and it'd be so cool to play for your hometown. Growing up, that's all like you wanted to do was play for Newcastle, but I was a massive Storm fan.
So what chose the Storm? Like, how did that come about?
I don't know. It was just I just always watched footy and that, and I just loved Billy Slater, and then obviously GI was down there, and they had Folau, and ever since I was a kid, everything was about Melbourne.
Because that would have been what, like 2006, 7, 8 kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they played. I was devastated. I think Brisbane beat them in the grand final. I remember going to bed and I was
a Devo.
I was Devo,
mate. So I was a part of the squad.
Yeah,
like was in the top 30. I was 18th man a few times that year, but obviously, that was weird because like I was so young. I think I was like 18.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure 17. It just turned 18, maybe.
That'd have been hectic.
And so I didn't appreciate what was happening at the time. I just thought, this is Brisbane Broncos. This is what we do. We win comps.
First year, you go straight to the grand final.
Yeah, well, the squad was, but I didn't, because I was so young and naive. So I didn't really feel a part of. I don't know. It's weird. Like we were there for like the week leading up, like holding the pads and doing, what the top 30 does.
Yeah.
Being like 18th man that year. But looking back now, I just didn't really appreciate what was happening.
Yeah.
And it was a mixture of because I hadn't really.
And they would have come off the little era where Bennett was taking over and winning everything.
Yep. So like they went 1999, 2000, 2001, around that era, they like dominated, had a few not quiet years, but didn't win comps. And so from our perspective, it was like, this is like, it's great that we're in. I remember that we had a meeting, I think it was the following year, or it might have been a bit later. And it was like anything less than top 4 is a bad year for us.
Yeah.
Which is like, I guess, times have changed. But anyway, back to you. We're not here to talk about my fucking career. People listening going, fucking shut up, Kempy. Okay, so, I guess, was there a period growing up where it started to click for you and you started to make rep sides, or you didn't even make rep sides in that?
Always made rep sides as in like Maitland rep and stuff like that, but I never made Triple C through school or anything like that. And when you don't make them sides as a kid, I think you think you're never going to make it. You think like if you don't make Harold, I played Harold Mats and we won a comp there and played SG in that, but I know them other teams and that if you don't make the Australian under-15s merit team and stuff like that, you think you're no chance. But there's probably times where you go home, and I still do it now, like that you've got to work harder and harder and harder, and sometimes you just got to pull yourself back and just relax a bit. Yeah,
and I guess smell the roses. Appreciate where you're at kind of thing. In saying that, I guess the the lack of, not relaxing has got you to where you are, it keeps you on your toes, training really hard. And you said you got suspended when you're 15 or 16. What happened there?
Yeah, I failed a drug test and I was a year young SG ball, and
What?
I think I did 14 months or something. They say 2 years, but it wasn't 2 years. I only really missed my own age of SG ball.
Yep. And what happened there? Like,
I got a supplement in just this little black bottle thing, and then just as a kid you do, and just had some band
thing in it.
Yeah, some big long name.
And like, what did you think that what you were taking? Did you think it was like beta-alanine or?
Well, at that age, you start getting in the gym, so you're doing everything to put on size. And I was only a skinny kid as well, so obviously protein shakes and everything like that. And you hear people say, make sure you check it and do all that stuff, but then you start thinking, well, if they're selling it, it's going to be sweet to buy.
Especially at 14 years old?
Yeah, 15.
15,
turning 16. Yeah.
So it's not like you're 15.
Right? Yeah. And then obviously people say you went out and got on the juice and all that. Like you don't even know what that is when you're that age.
Mate, getting on the juice at 15 would be bad.
Yeah.
You don't need testosterone at 15. Jesus Christ, it's literally bursting out of you.
Yeah.
So did you just assume, like, for example, like, similar, like when I was a bit later because I wasn't doing gym when I was playing soccer that much. But like when I was 17, 18, like I would go into the protein shops and I would buy like L-glutamine, beta-alanine, creatine.
Yeah.
And if the guy said like, this is a good amino acid stuff, I'd say, yep, sweet, boom, give it to me. Was that how it came about for you or differently?
It was a bit different. Like obviously I went into the shop and that, but it was my uncle that had it at thingy. It had like had some weird name on the front of it. And it was just a normal one that he got from a supplement store, and then and
he just said, boom, have this, it's going to help, train hard or something.
No, he used to be kind of into the gym and then just got fat and sloppy like old people do. But, I just said, what's this? And he just said it's just a normal supplement, and he got it from one of the stores. So as a kid, like I went home and checked it on the SADA website, and I think they could see that I'd still had that in my history that I checked it. So
okay,
and it
so
just
that
come
helped.
up no match found, and I think now they've actually got, because you used to have to put every ingredient into the website to actually see if it's banned or not, but I think now that they've got the thing, it's obviously helping a lot of young athletes.
Oh, okay. So you did go and search it?
Yeah, I went and searched it. Yeah,
and we're not talking about like needles and shit here. We're talking about tablets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's crazy. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
I guess it's a really good listen. Any kids listening, like,
Yeah, 100%. That's what I tell my younger brothers and that now. Like, you don't even need to be taking protein and shit like that.
Yeah, when you're that age,
like
it's you may as well wait until you start and hit 17, 18 and get it done by a club.
Yeah.
Or like make sure you go through the right process.
And now BSC strictly, everything's pretty much tested through them, so it's so much easier.
Yeah. And you're right, like there are brands now that they stake a claim on that. So if you could, like, let's say you bought something from a certain company that staked their claim and then it was tainted, you could actually probably sue them because they've said it's not.
They fucked you around.
Yeah. Not to say that any company's done that at all, just in a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Wow, it's really interesting. I guess, were you rattled like as a kid, or what was it like?
I was probably too young to realise what was actually going on. I remember the phone call and I was about to go into Newcastle to the beach, I think, and I still went, and it was in the back of my mind, but I didn't understand the consequences that were going to come from it until they come up to home and I had a meeting and spoke, gave them my side of the story, and it was a massive process. I think it went for like 12 months or something.
Wow.
And then once I heard from that, I could play in 2 months. So it actually went pretty fast.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess when you're young, you just kind of...
I was rattled, but because obviously as a kid, everything's about footy and everything's about playing touch footy, school events and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't go to them, and your mates are getting on a bus to go to Coffs Harbour and play footy or do that sort of stuff. And then I just had to stay at school because of the mistake that I made.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, it's a tough lesson to learn as a 15-year-old.
Yeah, 100%.
Especially, again, it was, just a tainted supplement you were just naively kind of taking, and you'd searched it before. Wow. Okay, so I guess, do you remember your first game back then? Were you excited as anything?
Yeah, I think my first game back was with Raiders under 20s. So thankfully enough,
How did that come about? The Raiders.
Peter Mulholland, that he put me on contract in Newcastle. There was a time there where I was just sitting in the classroom and I was like, fuck, how am I going to get back into a system now? Like my manager that I had at the time told me that I'd have to start again at Newcastle and go play local league, and he said that he didn't really want to manage me anymore. So I remember when I was a kid, Sam Ayub reached out to me, and then I reached back out to Sam and said, like, this and this has happened. Is there any chance I can get another crack in that? And he said, yeah, for sure. So he worked through it and organised a meeting with Pete Mulholland, and the time that I went down to meet Sam, Sticky and Pete were actually in the office signing Junior Paulo.
Really?
To Canberra. So spoke to Stick and Pete there, and ended up getting a 20s gig, and then went from there.
Far out.
And as bad as it all sounds, like, I probably wouldn't change anything from my perspective, but I wouldn't wish it to happen to anyone else, because it's not a good feeling, that. But I feel like it's sort of created who I am now, and I learnt so much from it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. As I said, it's a tough lesson to learn, but at the same time, you find a lot out of yourself, and also you realise what you do and don't appreciate.
Yeah, 100%.
And it's obviously worked for you down in Canberra. So, did you have to move down? You obviously had to move down to Canberra.
Yeah, I remember I moved down. Well, because I didn't know, because the suspension finished in October, I think it was. Actually, the suspension finished in February, but I was allowed to train in October. So I was waiting for that to happen, and then I think it was like January. And Pete still hadn't rang to say to move down, and I was starting to think, like, am I going down or not?
Oh, wow.
But lucky enough, he called and I moved down. I think he had about $700 in my bank, and stayed at the AIS down there. It was like this little, I don't know if you've stayed in one of them. It's just like a little bedroom thing. You got the kitchen in the same room, toilet in the same room.
Like a little dorm kind of. Yeah.
Stayed there for 2 weeks, and then luckily enough, one of the staff, Dean Suter, took me in until kind of found my feet to move out.
Wow. And so you 17, 18?
18, yeah.
18. And so what about the thing happened when you're 15 to 16, around that age. And so was there a period where you could have played, but you just weren't playing any footy, if you know what I mean? Because at 18 years old, there would have been at least, six to 12 months where you could have played?
Well, there was that off season.
Yeah, okay.
Where I could train, but I couldn't play.
Okay.
Because they date it back to when you get tested. I think I was tested in May or something like that. And then, or it might have been a bit later.
Yeah.
So they actually date it back to when you tested. So then I was able to play, I think, in February or something.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And so you get down there, and were you missing home, or you just you loved
there was
it?
times where I was messaging mum saying, like, and that's just saying I don't want to do it. I'll go home and give nights a crack and that. And they were so supportive to just hang in there and stay down there and see what comes of it. And I think it was the best thing for me, moving away from your mates that you grow up with, and everything's so comfortable at home. And it was actually just stepping out of your comfort zone to be down there. And I ended up loving it down there, under 20s, and it was probably some of the best times, just because you're young and get to do whatever you want, really.
Nah, you're just free, and you just think it's going to last forever. Like there's no,
100%.
you're not thinking about anything. You just think this is going to last forever. I'm young, enjoying it.
Yeah.
Okay, so did you hit the ground running, or did it take a while to just find your groove a bit?
Well, I trained really hard before I went down there with a fella called Josh Day. He runs water for Newcastle women's team now, and he was massive for me. I was still getting up at 5 a.m. most mornings. Pop would get me out of bed to train, and I went down to Canberra, probably the fittest I've ever been.
Wow.
And I feel like, I did. Obviously, when I started playing, it took me a little bit to get used to playing footy and that again. But I feel like the way I trained and prepared to go down there definitely helped me.
And do you remember your first game back?
Yeah, it was against West Tigers at GO.
Yeah, how'd you go?
Well, I didn't think I was going to play. Brett White, he was the coach at the time, and that week I had a session with Woden Valley Rams. Thought I was just going to make my way through local league and then get a few games in 20s. But thankfully enough, Whitey took me under his wing and gave me a start, and I think I played nearly every game that year.
Wow. Do you remember anything from the first game at all?
Nah, not really. I remember I played lock and I started, and there was about 2 minutes into the game. And I was like, oh, fuck. And because before I moved down there, I'd never played in the forwards. I was always in the halves at Newcastle and that. So
that's crazy to think you're a half, bro. That is mental. It's bizarre how, like, I speak about it with all the boys, but You can have the biggest preseason of your life and just you can be doing fitness drills and just smashing it. You get out in a footy field, boom, gone.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Every year.
Every year.
No matter how running fit you are, the game's just next level.
And even if you do like crazy wrestling sessions or whatever, it's just
then through the year you feel better and you're not even doing much running through the week.
Exactly.
But then through the games, you feel way fitter.
And I feel like as well, like throughout the year, you don't appreciate how fit you've become.
Yeah.
Because like you think, oh yeah, this is how it's always going to be until the next year rolls around and you're like, oh shit, like this is fucking hard.
You have 1 week off and you feel like you lost everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, you're of Ukrainian descent. I guess like obviously a really bad time at the moment for Ukraine. Do you have much contact with your Ukrainian side?
Yeah, obviously terrible time what's going on over there. I still pretty much live with Nan at home, so.
Oh, okay. And is she full Ukrainian?
She's full Ukraine, yeah.
Wow.
Her and her sister, and she come over with her mum and dad and stuff like that, and we still have great memories with her, Arnie and her mum and that. I don't think I met her dad just because she was so
much older.
Yeah. But I remember going around to her mum's house and that they lived in Greta as well. And as a kid, you don't really know what's going on because your nan and great grandparents are talking a whole nother language. Mum and that can speak it as well, and we're just like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah, 100%. What was the story of them coming over? Just a better life?
Yeah, I think they were escaping one of the wars over there.
Far out.
And they were trying to get out, and thankfully enough did, and ended up in. I think all the convicts or whatever ended up in the Greta migrant camp, or I think there was one at Bathurst as well. So that's how we ended up being from Greta because
they went to a migrant camp.
Went to the migrant camp out at Greta.
Well, so what does that involve? Like, it's just like a place set up for immigrants to come and stay or whatever?
A place set up. It was actually pretty cool, the photos and that Nen has got, and Nen used to do talks and that for our school because we learn a bit about the migrant camp. So.
I didn't even know they existed, which is,
it's pretty hectic.
Yeah, it's like as an Aussie, I should know that shit. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like it's a failure of our system that we've got migrant camps in our country that we're not even aware of, and there'd be people struggling in these camps that we could try to help as a country, and they're fleeing war. It's not like they're just cruising in.
Yeah.
Did she ever speak about her upbringing at all, or not really?
We ask her all the time and that what happened, and she's a proud Aussie now. Like she loves everything about Australia, and she doesn't even have an accent really. But
wow,
she used to say how hard it was when she first started school, not being able to speak pretty much no English.
Yeah.
And obviously back then, like she was being called Walgood and every other name, and she said that the people at the time weren't very good to them because I think there was a few of them. So
yeah. It's man, it feels like wherever migrants go, there's always going to be the people that are from the place that they arrive at have some animosity because they're the other.
Yeah.
But now obviously she loves it and she's accepted. I hope she's accepted. Obviously.
Yeah.
It's what's crazy is like how we like when someone that speaks a different language speak English, and we laugh because they might mix words up or they, it's a bit of fun. When you think about it, you're like, bro, they can speak 2 languages. You can speak one.
Yeah.
You're the idiot. Like, why are we laughing? They can speak 2 languages.
I don't understand how they do it.
No, that's incredible. I imagine what an incredible woman to flee a war-torn country and then obviously be a part of your journey and where you've gone. It's just amazing. I'm sure she sits back and goes, like, I can't believe, my grandson is.
Yeah, they're definitely really proud. Obviously, growing up with Nan and Pop as well, like they were always first to put their hand up and take me wherever, and they still come down and watch games in Canberra.
That's so good.
They don't like going to Sydney much just because of the traffic and
bit much.
Pop freaks out in the lanes and put your maps on, mate.
Okay, so you get down in and you play all year in that first 20s. Did the club approach you at all in the sense of, how you can kind of begin to get a feel like they've got a bit of an eye on you?
It was probably my second year of 20s when I was able to go up and just train 1 day a week with first grade. And then I was talking to Stick about possibly getting a rookie deal. And then he promoted me to the top 30 in 2019.
Yeah, wow. What was that? Do you remember the conversation or how it kind of come about?
Yeah, I remember going up in his office and just because I was doing 1 day a week, I just asked him where he sees me transitioning into first grade and stuff like that, and he just said that that there's a top 30 spot available and that he's going to give it to me. And
wow,
I was shocked at the time.
Really? Because when you're young, you just feel like so grateful to even be in the kit.
Yeah, 100%.
Now I have to ask you this because we've got a mainly love relationship with Ricky on the podcast. We obviously make jokes about the fact that he loves a blow up. We love that he loves a blow up.
Yeah.
But what's he like, person to person?
I don't think he's anything like what he comes across in the media. Obviously he's got his charity and stuff like that. So he's such a caring person. He cares for his players, and I think that probably gets the better of him sometimes, the emotion, because of how much he loves his players and cares for them. And he's never done a thing wrong to me, and forever grateful for everything Stick's done for me. Obviously, with my suspensions and stuff like that, he's stuck by me.
Mate, I think he's such a good character of the game. Like, obviously, we all make mistakes and whatever. Like, he's passionate and all that out of the way. I think he's such a good character for the game. Such a good character. And I actually really vividly remembering him absolutely having your back publicly with all the suspensions that you went through.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing with Stick. If you do good by him, and it's probably a thing at the club that if you do good by the club, it does good by you. And Stick's always lived by that. And there's probably people out there that don't like him because of how honest and brutal he is. But at the end of the day, it's only good for you.
Yeah.
But I like it as well. I like when he gets in the media and.
Mate, I love it. I fucking love it. I love it. It's what we need, man. It's rugby league, baby.
I feel like sometimes everything's just so straight up and down, and when he says something out of the ordinary, everyone blows up about it.
Absolutely. Again, there's certain, like, obviously there's been mistakes, but 90% of the time I think I like it. I enjoy it. And also, like, you have to remember, Ricky Stuart has earned the right to say whatever he wants.
Yeah.
Like, not only has he done all the stuff that he does off the field, what he did on the field was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Obviously I was too young to see any of that, but Dad and that say that he was a freak.
Mate, and like, he was I didn't watch it at the time, but when you go back and look at clips and that, like, he was an aggressive half.
That try that he set up in, I think it was in the World Cup in England.
Incredible.
When Mal scored, that was hectic.
Mate. And like the people that he was playing with, like Mal Meninga and that, like, far out. Okay, so he tells you that you're going to be in the top 30 next year. Is this 2018?
18, yeah, for 19.
So do you remember your first preseason?
Yeah. It was probably the hottest. The boys say it was probably the hottest preseason they've had in Canberra.
Yep.
And I remember I trained real hard in the off-season of 2018 as well, because obviously your first preseason with NRL, you want to impress.
Yep.
And fuck, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hot, and then you go home and you think, fuck, how do people do this every day?
Yeah.
But then you eventually get used to it and your body gets conditioned to it. And I just remember the first few weeks in pre-season, I was just hanging on.
Mate. And you're going like, surely we're not going to have a big day tomorrow. Like,
and then you just see Big Papa and that. They're 120 kilo and they're just cruising around.
Getting through it. So the thing that I think I did about 8 pre-seasons, I think. So like not nowhere near as much as, Big Papa and that. The thing that I learned probably halfway through is you've just got to accept your fate.
Yeah. 100%.
Life's going to be shit for 3 months. That's it. Boom. Yeah. And then that usually helped me through it, because I was just like whenever did you do army camps? You do army camps?
Army camps, yeah. It got cancelled this year because there was a COVID breakout, so.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, so this is 2018, and you debuted 2019.
19, yeah.
So during the 2018 season, when you're with the first grade squad, were you 18th man at all? Were you close or not?
Nah, because I was only coming up and doing the big day on Wednesdays. So I was playing at the time. NYC had finished in 17, so then we played under Mounties in 2018. So I was just playing 20s and then training on the Wednesday with first grade. And when you come in, you think it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I know. You're loving it. Is there anyone, when you did come in, that you were sitting there going, wow, that's X-player or X-player, you get a bit starstruck by him?
Probably, I don't think it was probably any X-players, probably players that I play with now. That you sort of pinch yourself, like Soliola and stuff like that were in the team. And he actually had a massive blow-up in one of the sessions, and I was just like, fuck, well.
Oh, really? Like
He's such a nice dude. You wouldn't expect him to blow up. And one session, he just lost his marbles and went off, and everyone was like,
well, as in like because people were dropping balls?
yeah.
Or?
I think it might have been even raining or something. And so he just pulled everyone together and just sprayed everyone.
Mate, he's the big dog. He's the big dog. Okay, so that year goes by, and were you playing New South Wales Cup, you said?
20s.
20s.
Yeah.
Okay, so the end of 2018 season, end of 2018 going into 2019, that was your first full preseason.
Yeah, yeah.
And so during that preseason, were you getting a feel of like, oh, I actually might get a debut this year?
Yeah, I had a really big preseason, and Whitey and Cappy put a lot of time into me because I think there might have been a World Cup or there was something where there was no international players there at the time.
Yep.
So Joey Taps and stuff like that, they weren't there. So I ended up training with first grade because, they split the teams during pre-season. And I ended up training with first grade. So it was towards the trial games and that. I got named to have a trial game. So then I was starting to think like, fuck, I might actually get a go this year. And especially being on the top 30, I thought that I'd eventually get a crack, but I didn't think it'd come as soon as it did.
Yeah. Okay, so then obviously throughout the year, you obviously do make your debut that year. It's in round 3. So how did you go round 1 and 2? Did you play really well?
I played really well in New South Wales Cup, and then Joey Taps broke his finger against Melbourne in Canberra. And then I think we played Newtown before it. And I spoke to Stick before it, and he said that there's a chance you could play next week. And
did you go, just how far I'm going skits now? I'm going skits.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you remember how you got the call up or the conversation?
Because Taps, he wasn't sure if he was going to play or not. So I think it was like the Wednesday or something. Stick said that he's not going to play me. He's going to, I think it was Nami or someone like that. He's just going to put up and push someone else out to the edge, I think it was. And that was at the start of the session. He said that. And then when we were walking off the field, Stick said, "No, I've changed my mind. You're playing."
Oh, no way.
And I was like, fuck.
So, I mean, I'm just guessing here. Do you think he was testing to see if you'd sook?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. It could have been that because we had a session during that time.
Yeah.
And then...
because it sounds to me like he was sitting where you drop your fucking bundle and go off.
Because I come in that before that session going like, he could tell me today that I'm playing.
Yeah.
And then when he said, yeah, you're not playing, he's going to go with this and that, I was just like, yeah, sweet. And then
did you train well? Like, I don't know if you remember.
Yeah, I trained pretty well, just normal. And because I was so young, I'd only played 2 reserve grade games. I didn't expect to get a game that early. So I sort of just brushed it and said, oh, we'll come again later in the year. But yeah, when he told me when I was walking off, I was stoked.
Because then the good thing about that as well is you're not expecting it at all.
Yeah.
You're like, just got told you're not playing.
Yeah.
Okay, so the week, the build up, what was a phone call like to your nan and your pop on that?
I think they started crying, but yeah, they're obviously really emotional because of everything that I had to go through to get there. And I think I ran Nan and Pop first, and then Mum and Dad, and then messaged my brothers and stuff like that. And yeah, they were real proud.
And I mean, you're right. You had to go through quite a lot. I guess looking back, getting the suspension and all that kind of stuff, and then being able to make your debut. Did you think about that all leading up, of like what you had gone through, or you just caught in the moment, focused? Yeah,
I think I was probably just because I accepted that what I did was wrong and the mistake I made. I think it was easy for me to move on rather than sit there and say, "Poor me, I didn't know what I was doing" and stuff like that, which was the case. But I feel like once you own it and move on, it's so much easier. And I kind of just forgot about it when I went to Canberra because I got out of that bubble of Newcastle. No one really even knew down in Canberra what had gone on and stuff like that. And I remember we had an army camp that pre-season leading into 2019 and I told everyone then what had happened and how I ended up in Canberra. So, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the army camp, do you remember your first army camp? Do you remember the details?
I remember getting there and I looked at one of the fellas that was running. I looked at his shoes and then he just started blowing up going, "What are you looking at, mate?" And I was like,
as in one of the sergeants or whatever?
Yeah. Had to get there. As soon as we got there, tipped all our bags out. I had to empty him and that, and then he's just like pack them back up. Had to go build our own tent and we weren't even allowed to sleep in it. Started pissing down rain. Mate, I thought it was the longest night ever.
Oh, so it's just one night?
2 nights.
2 nights. Yeah. Oh, and they're genuinely trying to fuck with your mind.
Yeah, as soon as you fall asleep, blow a thing, had to get up, go up the oval. When we got up the oval, all the sprinklers are on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Torture.
Did they do things like put people on watch, and if anyone fell asleep on the watch, everyone had to get towed up?
We had to carry a brick. So if anyone dropped the brick or put down a brick or left the brick, it was like 50 burpees or something. Oh. You know what BJ Leilua was like.
Oh, the big fella. Hey?
He ended up doing 500. I think BJ was meaning it.
I think the good thing about the army camp, so it really opens your eyes up to how much you can get through.
Yeah, 100%.
Because like if someone said that, oh, you're going to do this, you'd be like, nah, there's no way. Like I'll be too tired or whatever. Yeah. And then you do it and you're like, wow.
I feel like it helps you as well. For obviously in the games, but it also helps you for the next preseason that as well because of what you've went through the preseason before. I feel like it conditions you and probably builds a bit more mental toughness in that aspect. And you also get to find out about blokes as well. Like
100%.
Whether they're there,
and you'd be surprised.
Or they're happy just to be there.
Exactly, you'd be surprised at certain blokes that don't handle it very well.
Yeah.
And certain blokes that you thought were 100% going to crack the first day. Yeah. Go mad.
And you build good relationships with people as well because. Obviously in the start of pre-season, some boys don't know each other and stuff like that, but by the end of it, you're all best mates.
Mate, especially, like there's 2 things that bring the boys together, army camp and beers.
Beers, yeah.
That's it. So if you can do an army camp into beers, boom.
Best ever.
Best ever. Even though you'd be fucking blind of one. Yeah. After an army camp, you'd be so dehydrated, you'd be rattled. Obviously, drink responsibly. Okay, so you get the call up to play your debut, and it's against the Knights.
Yeah. It's like it was meant to be.
Mate, what is going on? Did that play any significance to you or not really? You'd moved on from living there or?
No, it kind of meant something to me that obviously they sort of let me go in Newcastle, so I wanted to try and play well, and I feel like it was just meant to be making your debut against Newcastle. Like there's 16 other clubs or 15 other clubs you could have played against, and because I played against Newcastle, I feel like it was pretty cool.
Written. It was written, baby. Okay, so you rock up to your debut. Was it at home or?
In Canberra, yeah.
In Canberra. Do you remember walking into the sheds, or what do you remember from the day?
I remember waking up and I wasn't nervous at all. And then on the way to the game, I felt good. And then once I got out the car to walk in to the thing, obviously the crowd are there and stuff like that. And then I started to get real nervous. And Josh Hodgson, he's probably the best leader I've been around, and he just grabbed me before the thing and just said, mate, you're here for a reason, and we've all got your back, and it's just another game of footy. And after that, I felt really good after that.
And so did you start on the bench or did you start?
Yeah, I started on the bench. I think I come on with 21 to go.
And what do you remember from coming on?
Another 2 minutes, mate. I was getting back cramps and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
Far out.
Because you're so tense sitting there on the bench.
100%.
Because it's your first game, you don't. And I've never come off the bench either, so I feel like there's like an art to coming off the bench.
100%. Yeah.
Just staying relaxed, and obviously I learned that throughout the year, but my first game, I think I spent all my energy running up and down the sideline.
Josh Miller, I think, he used to, Josh Miller, he used to play for the Raiders.
Yeah.
He used to like do the hit up. Like with the forward, I'm pretty sure, back in the day, which is fucking hilarious. He's one of the toughest blokes I've ever met, legend too. Okay, do you remember anything specifically from the game that happened, or was there any game early on in your career that you remembered going, wow, this is a time where I've made a mark? Or
no, sort of, I think running out with the Viking clap was probably the coolest thing of the debut, because until you actually been there and experience it, it gives you goosebumps, especially running out. And I remember seeing it years before, going, fuck, that'd be cool. And then when I signed with Canberra, I was like, that's what I want to do. And I stayed in first grade, I think, for the next 3 weeks. And then Ricky had me in Big Red, and that's kind of on a rotation. So then I went back and played a game of cup, and then come back into first grade. And I kind of made it a thing that I'm not going to go back to cup, and I want to stay in first grade.
Yeah. And so this is also the same years you guys go on massive run.
Yeah.
But is it round 25? You get suspended?
Round 13, I think the first one was.
So yeah, round 13 is the first one. And I guess that's the kind of one where you go, silly mistake happens. You got how many weeks you get? 3 or 4?
5.
5 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay, well tell us about the first incident that happened. I guess just walk us through the incident.
Yeah, obviously, I think the eye gouges come from the way that I was probably preparing for games, and obviously being in the country, kind of growing up, footy was always the roughest sport, and you could do what you want when you ended on the footy field, and that's the way that we played it.
Yep.
And I was probably doing it at training, not eye gouges or anything like that, because you never mean to hurt anyone, and that's definitely not the person I am or anything like that. And but I like stirring blokes up and giving facials and stuff like that. And I feel like that's probably the trap that I fell into at training, when you get to push and shove you nowadays at training and that. And then my reaction was probably to get him back in the next tackle. And I feel like I probably fell into a bit of a habit of doing that at training. And then obviously in the game against Aiden Tolman, I never intentionally tried to eye gouge him or anything like that. I remember just squeezing his head, and then my thumb just went in his eye. And ended up getting 5 weeks from that. And I remember ringing Stick after and saying, are we going to fight it or anything like that? And then he just went off and hung up the phone. And the next session I went in, just said, can we chat about what's happened and that? And he said, what the fuck would I have to talk to you about?
Oh, fuck. Tough love. So I guess your idea was, I'm going to be a little bit grubby here. I'm going to fucking give him a strong facial.
Yeah.
And
well, I remember I didn't actually try and give him a facial. I remember squeezing each side of his head, and then my thumb just slipped off and went into his face. Yeah.
So you were just trying to rough him up, pretty much, and it just went way too far.
Yeah.
Okay, so that first one happens. Did you have to deal with a lot of the social media, or not really? You just blocked yourself out from it.
It was hard a little bit at the start, but the second one was definitely worse.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to get to. The first one is like young rush of blood, fucking. Yeah, it can happen. It's not the best, obviously. It's not good at all, but it can happen. So obviously the second one happens. How did what happened there?
Yeah, it probably goes back to what I just said before. I feel like I probably didn't own that mistake, and I was probably thinking like I didn't do it, like because I didn't mean to do it. I was probably in the sense that I didn't do it, and you feel sorry for yourself, and then you start thinking like I didn't deserve 5 weeks. I shouldn't have even got suspended for it, and so you don't actually look at the mistakes that you were making and the way that things were happening, and I felt like the second one I actually looked into why it's happened, and that's what I come up with, that the way that I was training and the way that I was preparing is why I was making them mistakes.
And so is it a case of you like to be aggressive, you like to be in players' faces, but you just hadn't trained it properly and honed it properly to play NRL?
Yeah, obviously there's 500 cameras in the NRL, so I probably didn't realise how far I was probably taking it. Like you said, I like being aggressive and I like pushing the boundaries, and I feel like that's the balance that I've kind of mastered at the moment of being aggressive and in people's faces but not overstepping the line.
Yeah, it's a tough one because people don't like to admit it, but forward packs are trying to dominate other forward packs, intimidate. Before the game, you're not running out going, all right, guys, like, let's just make sure we're the best quality team. You're talking about boys, fuck those, let's get in front. But, you know what I mean? That's what it is. 100%. But people, I don't think that a lot of the media, I don't think a lot of the public understand how aggressive you see it on. It's like boxing. You see boxing on TV and you're like, yeah, it's hectic. It's not until you go to a fight where you go, holy shit, they are hitting them with, bombs or whatever. And it's kind of like footy to a degree.
And every forward pack talks about it, that you don't want to be owned by the other forward pack.
No way.
It's kind of a thing where each forward pack goes into each contest and you kind of rate yourself after the game of how you went against that forward pack, I guess.
So the second one happens, and as soon as it happens, what's the fallout internally for you?
Well, the second time it wasn't put on report, and I actually didn't even know that anything had happened.
Really? Okay.
Until the second half, and I looked at the big screen and they were replaying it.
Okay.
And then I remember I was playing next to Jack White, and he looked at me and said, "You're a dickhead." Then I still didn't know that I'd done anything wrong until after the game. I checked my phone and
far out. Was it just like 50 messages and shit?
Just message after message, and then requests and people tagging me and shit and spraying me.
Fucking hell. What was that like to deal with?
It was probably hard at the time because people were saying stuff about your mum and they're going to come kill you and your mum and
fucking hell,
and do everything like that. And
That's disgusting.
and it's
bro.
still
That's disgusting.
yeah, it was tough at the time, and I was living with Ryan Sutter at the time, and he was replying back to people spraying him, and yeah, but probably deserved it in a way.
Well, yeah,
But
I mean,
not to the extent of where people target your family or anything. I don't give a people say what they want about me, but when they bring your family and that into it, it's where it crosses the line.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that's disgusting. Like, absolutely disgraceful. And I personally feel if you ever get caught saying things like that specifically, you should never be allowed to come to any game ever again.
Yeah.
You should be completely ostracized from the NRL community. It's very different to me messaging you going, you're a fuckwit, Hutto, fucking dog, rah, rah. Like, it's like, it's still stupid, but at the same time, all right, whatever, bro.
Yeah.
And I guess, so internally, is this when you started to realise, you know what, I've really messed up here. I've really messed up.
Yeah, well, that's where Stick was massive for me, because he could have just pushed me to the side and said, see you later, go find somewhere else. But he said that he's going to stand by me and support me. And there was actually a psychiatrist that works with us around leadership and stuff like that, Chris Horsley, and looked into why things were happening rather than just brushing it aside.
Yeah,
again.
okay, it's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and it was probably, like I said before, I probably wasn't owning what I'd done. Probably still thinking like, fuck, I'm missing out on the grand final, I'm doing this. So I spent that off season working on why things are happening and come up with a thing, the red and, you probably heard of it, the red head and the blue head. And red head's probably where you lose your concentration and stuff like that, and you just in the zone that you're just going to kill someone rather than know what's going on. So the more I could work around being in the blue head, the better it is for my game.
So he gave you tools to basically channel the aggression in the correct manner.
Yeah.
It's really smart because, like, I think, you know, you could have easily just gone, oh, you know what, stuff up, I'll be back next year, I'll work it out, but to actually take the steps. So I guess looking back on it now, is it something where you own that you did the wrong thing?
Yeah.
And you're going to be better from there on in.
And I feel like that's with anything in life now, that the faster you own it and just accept what's happened rather than feel sorry for yourself, the chances of it happening again is so much less.
Yeah. So walk us through, you know, you're going on that run. Are you super conflicted when you're a part of the Raiders squad? You probably would have been in the grand final team.
Yeah.
Is it internally really tough?
Internally, I thought like we were going to win the comp, and a party is so excited for the boys because you love everyone there, but then a party is like, fuck, I don't want to miss out playing on the grand final. But once you actually get to grand final day, that feeling just went away and everything was just like, fuck, we better win today.
Yeah, okay. So you get to grand final and it's like, okay, I might not be out there on the field, but I'm a part of this too, kind of thing. Yeah. And I want the boys to win.
I prepared all week. I think I was being Boyd Cordner all week. So I was actually training against the boys and that. So, I just trained like I wasn't playing and just ripped in. And, but when you get to grand final day, everything changed.
Yep. And so that week training as Boyd Cordner, what was like, you know, were there certain things that you were told to do to emulate him?
Well, he just runs that hard unders line.
Crazy hard unders line.
Every time.
Yeah.
and that's probably just what I was doing. I think I was up against Hayden Caesar, so I was just running hard under the line.
Yeah, mate. Ripping that inside shoulder right off. So the lead up to the grand final, like what was the perspective, from yourself, like outside looking in, did you really feel going into that you're going to win? You're really confident with the boys?
Yeah, well, obviously I think they knocked off Melbourne and then beat the Bunnies to get into the grand final. And it was probably a little bit of a feeling that we had this year that we can't be beaten.
Yeah.
And then going into the grand final when the boys were up, I think it was 8-8 at the time. I thought, and Cooper had just been sent off for 10, and I remember looking at Starlo and saying, like, we're about to win a fucking comp.
Oh, really? Far out. Because you dominate, like, the thing that won it for the Roosters was their defence on their line.
Yeah.
Like, if you just somehow would have broken them, I reckon, like, one try, you run away with it.
Especially when they had 12 out there.
And I guess what was it like on the sideline? Were you aware of the controversy that had happened with the six again, or not really? You didn't really notice it?
At the time, I remember saying, like, we should have got the ball back, but you don't realise how big of a turning point it was when Tedesco scores the next set.
That's the match winner.
Yeah.
Far out. And I guess what's the feeling on the sideline?
I still felt confident because I thought we were on top. I thought we were on top most of that second half, and it was probably a turning point as well when Jake Friend come on in the second half, and he just started turning and kicking to the thing. And another player, I thought, if Brett Morris didn't play, I don't think Roosters win either.
Yeah, he was really good defence.
He's just put it on a string in that corner, and he'd come up with the ball every time, and even on the defensive part of it, I think he come up with a knockdown, and he was massive.
Mate, Beam was one of the best wingers ever, seriously. Okay, so whistle goes. What is it like in the change room? What's Stick say to the boys?
I remember because I was so invested in the lead up to the grand final. Like I said, I remember I started having a cry, and when I seen Jared Croker break down, it broke me. And straight away, I remember standing next to Johnny Batemen. He kind of took me under his wing that year as well, and he made me stand there next to him and watch Roosters lift the trophy, and he said, we'll get him next year.
Far out. So Big Johnny, he knew to get you on the field and feeling that pain.
Yeah.
And so you go back into the sheds, and what did Stick say to the boys? Was he just like proud or?
Yeah, I think he was obviously so proud of the efforts from the whole year, and you just spoke about the lead up and stuff that we prepared well, and it just wasn't to be at the time, and just use it as fire for next year.
Okay, so that off season obviously ends. 2020 rolls around, and did you just have a huge off season pre-season? Were you going, I'm just gonna? Did you almost feel like you want to repay the boys or not? Really?
It was probably the hardest pre-season I've done because I still had 5 games.
Going into it. Yeah. Wow.
When all the boys were preparing for round 1, I still had another 5 weeks to go. So it was probably the toughest pre-season I've had to do just mentally. And I feel like it's made me a lot mentally tougher now because I was kind of training for the sake of training at one point when you come back November 1 and then you don't play till June or something.
So you'd be looking at what? It's like almost like a 5-month pre-season.
It ended up being longer because COVID hit.
Delayed the season.
It delayed the season.
Oh, my God.
I don't think I ended up playing till like July or something, so it was only 12 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess it would have really shown you that this can be just taken away from you.
Yeah, 100%. No, I probably didn't realise at the time how big of a deal and issue it was. Obviously, being young and your first year into first grade, they make a grand final and you think that this is going to happen every year.
Yeah.
So I probably didn't realise how big of an issue it was. And, it wasn't until probably now I sit back and realise that you take every game for granted, and I probably wasn't taking it for granted at the time.
Okay, so 2020, you play 18 games, including all 3 of the club's finals games, made it all the way to the prelim, and then you get beaten by Melbourne Storm.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Yeah, it was shattering because I felt like we were building really good that year. Obviously, Melbourne went on to win it, but I feel like that. And
Georgie Williams just arrived, didn't he?
Georgie played, yeah. He was carving up, so we were real confident going into that game. I think I was playing front row, so it was a bit of a change for me. But I enjoyed it.
And so obviously you lose that game. I guess, what was that feeling like? Because did you lose a bit of confidence as a squad, do you think? Because obviously the next year you come 10th. Like, what do you reckon happened there? Because that was also the off-season where Georgie
left
went home
halfway through 21, yeah.
21, so the next year he left halfway through.
John left at
20.
He played 20 in the prelim.
Yep, and then he left in the off-season.
Yeah.
I guess, what was that like? Were you close to John?
Yeah. He was probably my closest mate when he was in Canberra.
Yeah.
He took me under his wing when he come over, and he was always at my house. And I live with Starlow as well, so sometimes we didn't even know he's there, and he's asleep in the front lounge. What are you doing, man?
Go home, bro. So I guess with Johnny Batemen leaving, my understanding is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it was such a big turning point, I think, for the club. He was so important.
Yeah.
My understanding is he wanted a longer contract at the Raiders. They said, unfortunately, we just don't have the cap space to sort that out.
Yeah.
And so, because the reason why he wanted a longer contract was because then he could move his kid out.
Yeah.
But when that didn't happen, he was like, well, you know what? Maybe I should just go back to be with my kid.
Yeah.
Is that wrong, right?
That's pretty accurate. I'm not sure about the money, and I don't know. He never went into the money side of things or anything like that. But I think most of him, the decision was because of his family. And when you know John, he was so close with his mum and especially his daughter Millie. And he had a missus here at the time, but I remember him coming over to me and Starlo, and sometimes like he'd just sit there and not say anything, and you could tell that something was up with him. And he'd FaceTime his kid at the same time every day, so you can understand the decision for him to go back and be with his daughter, because he was so close with her before he moved here. And I think he'd still probably, same as George, I think they'd still be in the NRL if it wasn't for COVID.
Yeah, wow. Because that's a big factor that people forget. Like, you can't just fly him out, you know, when COVID was around.
And that's when he was at his happiest. I think they come over twice, and he's close with his brother as well. And George didn't even get to fly his mum and that over. So and his missus was heavily pregnant at the time as well.
And she's over here. She doesn't know anyone, George's missus, because she's from England, isn't she?
So just them two come over, and I don't think that she'd obviously left all her friends and family as well, so it was hard for her to move as well.
Is it hard as a player, or obviously I've been in squads too, so I know sometimes how hard it is, but it's been a while. Is it hard as a player when you see certain narratives being created in the media about your mates, when you know there's much more to what's going on?
Yeah, you want to have a say sometimes, but sometimes it's best just to let them have their say, and
because it just adds to they want that,
and let people believe what they're going to believe. But at the end of the day, we were so close as a club, and we knew everything that was happening. So the stuff that was coming out in the media and stuff like that didn't really affect us, because we knew what was going on with John and George.
And you all loved them as the boys. And
100%.
Okay, so John leaves, 2021 rolls around. I guess walk us through the COVID situation. Was that tough, easy for you as a young single guy? What, harder?
It was definitely easier for me being single. It would have been harder for the boys with families and stuff like that, obviously not being able to leave the house. But I live with two of my good mates, so it's probably easier for me. But probably the unknown for me was probably the hardest part of when I'm going to get a game of footy.
Yeah.
Because I think when COVID hit, I still had 2 games to go. And I remember talking to Stick in that. I was like, surely the NRL can do something. Like, I had an 8-week suspension. I've done 11 months. Like, surely I can just brush them and then play when it resumes. But and then when it resumed, I come back, and my first game I was available. I played against Manly at Campbelltown, I think it was, with no crowd.
Do you remember the feeling of finally being back?
Yeah. It was probably similar to the other one. I said, as soon as you get out there, you gash straight away, because you haven't played for so long.
Yeah. And
then Sticky stuck by me again and just gave me the game time in first grade, because I could have went back and played reserve grade, and but reserve grade wasn't a thing after COVID. So,
yeah, true.
For him to put me straight back in and get game time straight away, and obviously lead up into the finals.
I mean, this is the loyal part of Stick that a lot of people don't see.
Stick's been massive, and it's not only on the footy side of stuff as well. He kind of teaches you stuff away from that as well, just to how to be a better person. And I feel like I'm the person I am today through the Canberra Raiders.
Okay, so you have your first game back. Do you remember anything specifically from the game other than being gassed?
No, not really. I actually hurt my knee training. I tripped over Whitey and chipped cartilage. So I ended up, thankfully COVID actually hit in a way, because I would have been out through my knee. So I remember coming back, and it was still sore as at the time. I could barely put any weight on it. And I remember just telling the Stick, no, it's fine, it's fine.
Yeah, as you do. Okay, so you come back, and you 2021 rolls around. You guys come 10th.
Yeah.
And this is also, I'm pretty sure this is the year where there was a bit of tension internally. I know Ricky's come out and said that he sorted it out. I think he took the senior players away earlier this year, maybe, or last year.
Yeah, we went this year.
It was this year. So last year, 2021, you come 10th. What was the tension, and was it, what was the tension?
I don't know if it was so much tension. It was the fact that George had left. Obviously, Stick wasn't happy because his playmakers just left. And and then we had obviously moving up to the COVID thing, and things weren't going right. We weren't winning at the start of the year. We were going through that rough patch, and then Hodjo stood down as captain. So we had a new captain last year, being Elliot, and I wouldn't say there was so much tension. It was probably just a little bit of disconnection of the playing group and the staff, and I feel like Stick did a massive thing this year by taking our leaders and sitting down and speaking, and it's probably paid off in the long run.
Yeah. Okay. So 2021, when you do finish 10th, what's the feeling internally? Like, is fucking filthy? It
was probably a different feeling for this year. Like I said at the start, that I didn't feel like the season was going to end this when it did. Where last year things weren't going right. We're living away in a hub. Some people didn't have their families there. So everyone probably wasn't 110% invested in the season because there was so much going on outside. Obviously, people want to be with their wives and kids, and that's probably the biggest thing. There was probably weren't the 110% buy-in. And then when you finish 10th, it was probably like, thank fuck the season's over, rather than
Sometimes
like, everything that happened, it was a long year, and I know every year you want to make a grand final and stuff, but last year just wasn't happening.
Mate, sometimes those years just happen, eh?
Yeah.
And everyone's like, we just need to fucking go back and regroup.
Yeah.
Okay, so 2022 rolls around, and as you said, there's still not tension, but at the start of the year, like, I know you were missing, obviously, your half.
Yeah.
But there's still a little bit of a disconnect. There's just a feeling that something needs to change. So were you part of the senior playing group that went away with
Yeah, I was
Stick?
a part of that, yeah. I feel like it was obviously a bit of a bonding thing. Like you said, the beers make you closer. And
100%. Works every time.
We had a good chat before we had a feed and a few beers, and just had a chat what went right, what went wrong, and how we're going to improve. And I feel like that chat helped us massively. Like you said, things weren't going right at the start of the year, but how close our leadership group was, and how close we were to the coaches' staff, their feedback and our feedback for them, it feels like that's what got us out of it.
Yeah. It's like I've spoken about it quite a bit on our Monday review, that like I really feel, and like this is not to be patronising at all, like Ricky Stuart is a fucking legend of the game, but I really feel he's like improved as a coach, and I feel like Ricky maybe 5 years ago or so, maybe he would have been a bit more staunch and said, nah, you better come around to my way.
Yeah.
And I feel like he's improved so much as a coach to be able to go, you know what, let's take the boys out, let's talk about it and move forward. Again, that's just an outside looking in. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it definitely helped us because if we didn't do that, we probably wouldn't have understood what Stick was thinking, and he probably didn't understand what we were thinking as well. And it just got us on the same page. And even like when times were tough, and I remember there was reports out there that there was another blow up within the team, and there was a disconnection in that, but there never was. And like I said, I feel like that's what got us out. I think we had 2-8 start, and at round 13 or something, I think we were 15th. So
I think you went 2-6, I think. So out of the first 8 games, you won 2 games.
Yeah.
But then your last, you only lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games out of your last 22.
Yeah.
So fucking great, like back end of the season. Okay, so for yourself, was this really the first year that you cemented that edge spot? Like not off the bench, not playing front row.
I played there most of last year, but then I think I went to New South Wales Cup for 4 games.
Okay, that was last year? You went to New South Wales Cup for 4 games.
Yeah.
Was that quite disappointing? Because
I think it was probably a good thing in the way. I probably wasn't playing the best footy that I was playing, and we were losing at the time, and it was good to go back and just find my feet again, and the confidence of enjoying footy, and we ended up winning a few games in reserve grade, and when I come back to first grade, I was ready to rip in.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to go back and I guess take off the pressure of NRL.
There's so much pressure in NRL, you can't try and do new things. So when you go back to reserve grade, it's like do what you want kind of thing.
You can just rip in and play footy.
Yeah.
Like you're not. I think sometimes outside looking in, a lot of like people might go, oh, why isn't this player throwing this ball or that ball? A lot of it is down to I've been told to like get to a point, get to here, don't make an error.
People still think it's the olden days, just
do whatever you
do
want.
what you want.
No, I mean, you can sometimes find a really talented player that doesn't make first grade because he's not doing what the coach or the 7 or 6 says. Like, for example, Jackie Whiten, he's going to be, if he's saying, I need you to get to the fucking post and you go selfish and get to the tram line or whatever, he's going to be like, mate, our whole fucking play's ruined now. And people, I think some people don't really realise that.
Yeah. And because you want to break down defences, because some teams defend different with different structures, so you got a game plan of getting to this certain spot, so they put a defender here so you can do that play. So and if you go off and do your own thing, then you've stuffed the whole thing. Yeah,
it's selfish. It's really selfish. And don't get me wrong, there's sometimes you got to use your instinct and know when an opportunity is there.
Yeah.
Okay, but so this year, this is really obviously the year that I feel like you kind of, I guess, really arrived and I feel like the last few years you could see the potential, it was all there.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like this year, each game you were trying to make an impact, not just make up the numbers, make an impact. Is that what you felt coming in this year?
Yeah, I felt like I had a massive, massive preseason, and I feel like sometimes you probably fall into the trap of just doing things for the sake of it. So I wanted a big focus on when I do things, it's doing it for a purpose, and the way that you train, the way you prepare, and I feel like I did that all preseason and started the season really well, and then I actually hurt my toe in round 1, and then had one game in reserves, and I think that was round 2 or 3. I played reserve round 3, I think it was.
Round 5.
Round 5, yeah. And I made it a commitment to myself that I'm not going to play another reserve grade game, and the way that I was training and playing, and I felt like each game I was just growing with confidence, and and
then it all come together.
Yeah.
And so towards the end of the year, you really hit your straps. Like in your last roughly 10 games, you scored I think 12 to 13 tries.
Yeah.
Was there anything specifically that you changed, or not really?
Probably not. I think it was just confidence. I knew the player that I can be, and it was probably just doing it rather than thinking it. And I had a bit of a saying this year, don't think, just do. And I think the more you think about things, the worse they become and the worse you go. So I feel like if you just go out there and play footy and do what you've always done, and that's what I felt like I did this year, rather than try and be a different sort of player or worried about what other people think, I sort of just put that aside and just played my own game of footy.
And I think, all year you've kind of you enjoy the niggle and the rough and tumble and all that kind of stuff. But I think it was no more evident than the game against the Storm. Obviously, you had Big Nelson on your edge.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me like you enjoyed that challenge. Is that something all week that you were looking forward to?
Yeah, that's what I've always thrived on, challenges and coming up against the best players. And I remember one of the coaches told me that Nelson was coming over to my edge, and it actually excited me because I love playing against big aggressive players as well. I know people say that he takes it too far, but I actually like it.
Yeah, because you're as far as he wants to go, I'm willing to go. Yeah. I like that shit.
Yeah, and to give it, you got to take it as well. So if I'm going to give it, I need to be able to take it.
Yeah, it's I think that's one thing that with certain players, that as long as they're willing to, if they're willing to give it, as long as they don't sook when they have on the receiving end, you're like, you know what?
And I think Hargraves is probably the best example for it, because he'll give it, but he'll also take it and then give it back to you after that.
Yeah.
So
that's I speak to the boys about quite a lot. For sure, Hargreaves, he crosses that line regularly.
Yeah.
But you never see him backing down, or he'll cop it just as bad.
Yeah, and he won't ever stay down either if he cops it. So I feel like that's where probably that respect of knowing who can take it as well.
For sure. And is that something that has always been a part of your game, the real rough part? Because you were an outside back, essentially.
Yeah, I was always aggressive.
Yeah.
And it probably, I don't know, coming into first grade, I was probably just trying to do your job and make sure that you're selected for each week. And I feel like I've grown so much away from footy now that I can control that aggression and just play my game.
Yeah. Absolutely. What's really interesting as well is like last year you had statistically a really good year as well. Like, so I guess for you, this is almost a natural progression this season for you.
Yeah.
And so going into the finals, like this time around, what was the chat with Ricky? Was he just very confident because he was the underdogs, or?
Yeah, I think we come off a good winning streak, and everyone was playing well, and we knew that we could beat Melbourne in Melbourne. We did it earlier in the year, so we were really confident to go down there and play them. Yeah, and then against Parramatta, it was the same. We were confident that we could beat them, and we actually played them early in the year at GIO, and we didn't go too bad against them. So, and we improved so much as a side since that game. So, yeah, we went into the game really confident. Just didn't work out.
And what's it like playing inside Jackie Whiten?
Yeah, I think he's been a massive help to my form as well. Like I watch heap of footy, so I always come to him with new plays and stuff like that, and he'll tell me to shut up or we'll try it. So I feel like he's been really good. The way that he sort of controls, obviously we've got a younger edge, myself and Sebi Chris as well, and then we've got Rapper on the wing doing some random stuff. So. But yeah, Jack's been massive for my career so far, off the field as well.
And I guess like looking towards next year, are you really confident that, another year with Fogarty, another year with Whiten working together, Savage is really important another year?
Yeah.
Are you confident that you can go better?
Yeah. And one probably hasn't been spoken about as much is we lost Josh Hodgson round one. So poor Starlo had to play 80 minutes week in, week out, and he's only about 70 kilos, so it takes a toll on his body. So doing a pre-season with Zachy Wolford and Starlo there, obviously Savage and Jamal, if we can go with them into round one after a full pre-season, I think we've kept 16 of 17 players that played in the semi-final. So I think we can only go up from here.
And like the 13 role is semi-open because I know Adam Elliott got it towards the end of the year. Do you think, would you ever consider that, or you like the edge?
I'm pretty comfortable at the edge at the moment, but like I've played plenty of lock and I enjoy the middle just as much as I do on the edge. But I feel like Adzy's going to be a big loss for us.
For sure. And I always ask the boys this, but who's the biggest pest in the Raiders squad?
Probably Zach Wolford now.
No way.
Mate, he don't shut up.
He looks undercover.
No way.
I would have thought Raps.
Nah, Zach.
Wow.
No matter what he says, he's just got this voice and...
Oh, mate.
Is it just dribble?
Yeah. Everything's about horse racing, and if he's watching a horse race and you annoy him...
Close up?
Because when he was at Newtown, he was working at a stable or something.
Yep.
So he thinks he's got every inside scoop on every horse.
What's his tips like then? Are they terrible?
He's actually got good tips, but when they win and you message him and that, he'll carry on about it.
Oh, so you don't even, you're like, you know what, not even going to bother.
Not even going to tell him he told me.
Who's someone in the squad that, who's the best player you've ever played with?
It's hard. I think the most consistent player I've probably played with is Elliot Whitehead. The first 3 years that I come in, I don't think he ever had a bad game. And that's who I've probably been watching the most and learning from is Elliot. And he's always first to pull me up and come over and give me tips if he sees that I'm doing something wrong or thinks I can do something better. So I'm forever grateful for the amount of time and work that he's put into me. But in terms of probably Jack Whiten, like he can just turn it on and score when he wants to, really.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He's that powerful and athletic. It's freaky.
His story is pretty incredible. Like, there was a chance there that he could have gone the wrong direction, and he's completely turned everything around. And he's actually a really good story for young kids to learn from.
Yeah, 100%. Especially like you said, like the way that he probably went down the wrong path and got in a bit of a trouble, and he's come back from that and played in the grand final, won a Clive Churchill, won a Daily M, and represented his country. So it's not a bad way to bounce back.
What's Toots doing, the great croaker?
Yeah, he's training.
Yeah.
I think he had his shoulder and that. He's lifting weights and that now. So he's another one that when you play with, you just grow another leg for, because you don't want to let them down. They're all they bleed green and they love the club, and when you're next to them and you still pinch yourself because people like Toots and that, they've been around for ages. So
Yeah.
you grow up watching them and getting their footy cards and stuff like that.
Crazy. He's been around forever, seriously. Now, I ask all the boys this. Favourite, I'm not sure if you're a rap man, but favourite rapper of all time?
I'm not a massive rapper.
Favourite singer of all time?
Favourite rapper, probably 50 Cent, because I used to love Get Rich or Die Trying.
Getting G'd up in the gym?
Yeah.
Fucking oath. Favourite singer of all time then?
Fuck, I don't know.
Are you a country man? Or just...
I've been a country man since I moved to Canberra. Jackie White and that, they love their
Oh,
country.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're blowing up about getting tickets to
Luke Combs?
seeing Luke Combs.
Yeah. I've seen it all over Instagram, people blowing up. Far out. It's crazy how big it is. Favourite movie of all time?
Probably Tears of the Sun.
Tears of the Sun. Wow, I've never heard that one before. Is that like a sci-fi future one or?
No, it's the war one. I love action and shooting.
Who's in that movie?
I don't know.
Don't know. It's just a mad movie.
Yeah,
Tears of the Sun. That's
I just remember watching it all the time as a kid, and when it'd come on Channel 9 and that mum would always tape it because remember you could use the tape stuff. And I'd watch it the next day.
How good. Tears of the Sun. I've never heard that one before. Usually it's Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, Shawshank's good, yeah.
That's a great movie. Mate, thank you so much for coming on, bro. Really appreciate it. And I think you're in for a big, big, big year next year.
Cheers, brother. Thanks for having me.
Well, Dunskies.